So our mission secretary was a Finnish lady who'd married an American, and she'd raised her family in America, and she came back, and she was so faithful, but she was a little strange. One of the missionaries lost his passport. Lost it, which is a big deal when it has your visa information in it, right? And so it was going to be a big process to go to the U.S. Embassy and the consulate and make sure he was able to get another passport, and then to go through and get a visa again. Not a huge deal, but, a lot of trouble that we didn't need to take if he hadn't lost it. That was the year that one of the people who spoke in conference gave a story about someone who was like, his boat crashed and he was lost at sea with his crew, and he used the power of his priesthood to command a plane to find them in the ocean. I don't know if you remember that story, but that conference happened right before this elder lost his passport. And when he called the mission secretary to tell her this, she said, "Well, elder, did you use the power of your priesthood to command it to return to you?" And we were like, "No, I just lost it. I'm going to need a new one." She was so great. She was very supportive of the missionaries and so faithful, but man, she had weird ideas. That's just funny people. You will meet the funniest, weirdest people on your mission, and you will just love them, and it'll be so great. In terms of more spiritual, one investigator, the only investigator that I ever started teaching who got baptized. I was at 7 baptisms on my mission, but this is the only investigator who I started teaching, and I actually didn't get to go to her baptism. But we assumed she was the girl, our ward mission leader was an RM, a single RM. We were in a university town, and he had dated this girl, gone on a couple dates with this young woman, and she was an LDS. And he eventually, after a couple of dates, he said, "I'm LDS, I'm Mormon, and I'm not going to marry anyone who is an LDS." And when he said that, she's like, "Oh, well, then I want to know about the LDS church." And so he gave us the referral and agreed to be present at the lesson with her. But my companion and I were like, she's just some girl. She really likes our ward mission leader, and she's just in it for romantic purposes. But we prepared and we were ready, and it was just it ended up being one of the most special experiences of my mission. We thought it was just, you hear all the time about people that start investigating the church because of a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and how even if they get baptized, it usually doesn't go anywhere because they haven't done it for the right reasons. But we got in that lesson, and we taught the entire first lesson, the restoration. And my companion let me bear my testimony about the Book of Mormon and about Joseph Smith to conclude the lesson. We decided that I would do that. And as I bore my testimony, the Spirit just came into the room, and everybody started crying. It was just so, we had assumed she wasn't ready, and we didn't know that she was. The Spirit was able to testify to her. As I was testifying, I knew that the Spirit testified to her and spoke to her heart about being a child of God, and that this was true what we were saying. And I ended up being transferred. I was only in that area for one transfer. So I knew when she was going to get baptized, but I was in a different area, and I wasn't able to travel back to see her be baptized, which was sad for me. But that investigator, Emmy, she got baptized. She ended up being sealed to the ward mission leader. So, and now I think they have 1 or 2 children who are born in the covenant and being raised in the gospel. So, the definition of being elect is that someone who is elect hears the word of God and doesn't harden their heart. So anyone can be elect. What I learned that day was that we just don't know who the Lord has prepared or for what purpose. We're being invited to share the gospel with a given person at a certain time. We didn't think she was ready. We thought she was just in it for the cute ward mission leader. But it turned out that her heart was ready. She accepted the gospel, and now she's on her way. She's a faithful member of the church, and we wouldn't have known. And if we hadn't prepared for her, we could have wasted a really great opportunity. But now it's become one of the most special things to me in my life. And I remember that discussion. I remember that lesson pretty much more than almost anything else that happened on my mission. Another person I taught on my mission, her name was Kirsi Maria. She was a woman, a violin teacher, and she'd been the friend of one of the families in the branch where I was serving. She'd started teaching one of the daughters when she was 7, and now the daughter was like in her 20s. So she'd known this family for a long time. And this family had worked really hard to fellowship her and introduce her to the gospel. And at this point, when I met Kirsi Maria, she had gone to the temple dedication. She came to church every week. She'd stopped drinking coffee. She'd lived as a member of the church, but she hadn't gotten baptized. She went through companionship after companionship of missionaries, and she was such a great woman, but she wouldn't get baptized, and she learned about everything that we had to teach at least 3 times. Her teaching record was like 3 teaching records from the time that the area book had started being kept. So she'd learned so much, but she hadn't gotten baptized. And so we picked her up as an investigator again because things were slow, and we taught her again, and she's very nice, still came to church, but she wasn't going to get baptized. And so my companion and I decided to drop her again. We were like over 5 years, probably like the 100th pair of missionaries. That's an exaggeration, but she'd been through so many missionaries. And she hadn't gotten baptized. And so we were getting ready to drop her again. And I remember we'd had the planning meeting. We'd taken her out of progressing investigators and put her back in former investigators. That was Thursday. I think like that Sunday night, I get a call from the father of the family that's been fellowshipping her for like 20 years. And he said, "What are you doing this Sunday, 3 weeks from now?" And we usually would go to eat after church. This family, we would go to their house. They lived kind of a ways away, so they could only feed us on Sundays, and we would go after church. And I said, "Well, probably we're going to go to your house like normal, like we do on most Sundays. We don't have anything conflicting. Why?" And he's like, "Well, that's the Sunday Kirsi Maria is going to get baptized." This was completely out of the blue. No one was prepared for this to happen. No one. My mission, it was at the very end of my mission, I had one more transfer. After the transfer, she got baptized. My mission president had challenged me to work hard to have 2 more baptisms in the last 2 transfers. So one for one transfer and one for the other. And I said, "Okay, mission president, I'll do that. I want to finish strong." But I didn't really think the Lord would do that for us. I mean, we did not do anything to get that woman in the waters of baptism. We asked her what made the difference, and she said, "I've been living this way for so long, and a missionary 1 or 2 transfers previous had said, 'Kirsi Maria, I think you want to get baptized, so I don't know why you're not.'" And she said, "He said that," and I started thinking about it, and I realized that I did want to get baptized, but I always felt like there was this block, that I couldn't do it. And I woke up one day, and the block was gone. And so I called Veli Suurinkeroinen, Brother Suurinkeroinen, and I said, "I'm ready to get baptized." And Veli Suurinkeroinen called us. And she had investigated the church for 5 years. Nobody thought she was going to get baptized. She was the eternal of all eternal investigators. The Lord has a plan. He has a plan for his children. And I feel so blessed that the Lord allowed me to be part of the companionship of missionaries that was present when she was baptized. That we were able to represent all of the elders and sisters who worked with her over the years. So if you have an eternal investigator who you are frustrated with because they are not getting baptized, you don't have to force them. You don't have to push them into being baptized. The Lord has a plan. And when they join the church, you can have faith that they will. But don't be discouraged if it's not while you're there, because one day you'll find out that years and years later, that person that you knew would join the church did. And it was according to the Lord's plan for his son or daughter in that instance.